Hi. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to make a hole and we're going to form some threads. So the first thing is to decide where we're going to put the hole. On this little piece of metal, I want to have a hole 20 millimeters in from the corner this way and 20 millimeters in this way. So first thing is mark where that hole is going to be. So using my odd leg calipers and the steel rule, get 20 millimeters marked out first. So there we are. That's set to 20. I'll take my material, score little crosshairs. So one that way and one that way. Okay, now I mark where I'm going to drill. So on the back of a closed vise, put my component, using my hitting stick and my center punch, which isn't a scribe. Glasses down, find my mark, and give it one swift knock. There we go. You can now see there's an indentation there for my drill. And open the vise and insert my component. Now when I'm doing this, I'm going to have the component just slightly proud of the jaws of the vise. The reasons will become clear shortly. Tighten that up. Now, I'm going to form an M10 thread, so it's 10 millimeter is the outside size of this hole, of this tap. So in order to do that, obviously the hole I make needs to be smaller than that. Now, on the tap, it says M10 by 1.5. 1.5 is the size of the thread. Therefore, I need to drill the hole at 8.5 millimeters. So handily, I have my 8.5 millimeter drill in the drilling machine. Drilling machine itself, just briefly, it's got the chuck here, there's motor, there's a few different settings on the chuck here. There's a drilling setting, there's various torque settings, and then there's a hammer setting. Hammer setting is for if you need to loosen a bolt that's stuck. The torque settings are for when you're screwing something in to a wall and you don't want to over tighten it. The drilling setting is clearly for drilling. There's also two speeds, a 1 and a 2. We're going to go 2, 2's faster. The other thing, on the side here, there's a button. One's got an arrow pointing backwards, one's got an arrow pointing forwards. If you're drilling forwards, you want to have the forwards button pressed in. Simple as that. Last thing to notice with the drill, when you're not using it, if you lay it down on its side, that way it's already been knocked over. If you knock it over, you can damage it, damage yourself, snap the drill bit, etc. Okay, so we're now ready to drill. I've got this indentation here, so my drill has a place to start, and we'll just go straight through. So simply line up in the hole, and then just press it down, squeeze the trigger, full speed, and let it go through. There we go. We have a 8.5 millimeter hole. Drill on its side. The next thing is tapping the hole. So we've talked about taps before. This is an intermediate tap. So it's small enough to get into the hole to start with. It's not a bottoming tap. Tapping wrench. Insert the square end and tighten up one side. Now, tapping is made a lot easier with some lubrication. So first thing I'll do, just put a little bit of tapping fluid around the hole. And then with some downward force and clockwise rotation, I'm going to start tapping the hole. So I'm going to go around about one full turn. There we go. Now that it's gripped, I can remove the tapping wrench, leaving the tap in. With the set square, I'm going to check that this is going in square. So line it up this way, and line it up this way. This is the reason for having the component slightly proud of the jaws of the vise. It allows you to sit the square on the edge. So I can see it's slightly tipped over this way, and it's slightly tipped over that way, which means it needs to be pulled in this direction as I do my next turn. So reinsert the tapping wrench, and I'll just, as I'm twisting, I'll gently pull it round. Okay, try again. There we go. So this time it's slightly towards me, so I've overcompensated. This is the advantage of having the taper on the tip of the tap. It allows that sort of correction. So another turn. Loosen the tap. Check. Okay. That's looking okay now. So now that I'm happy that it's going in straight, I'm going to do one full rotation, and then I'm going to crack it back quarter or half a rotation, and that'll release the chippings. You should be able to hear it. So one full rotation, and then crack it back, and that's just the chippings breaking off the tap. Another full rotation, crack it back. Another full rotation, crack it back. And because this is just going straight through the component, I don't need to use a bottoming tap or a plug tap. Because the threads at the end here are fully formed. So it should be, once I can move this with one finger, that's a fully formed thread. Let's wind it back out now. And here we have a tapped hole. So if this is the female side, there needs to be a male thread as well. Again, it's M10, which means the major diameter is 10 millimeters. We're going to start with some 10 millimeter rod. I'll just stick that in the vise. And try and get it as vertical as possible. Nip it up. And this time I'm using a die. Now, we've talked about dies as well. There's a slight taper at either end of the die, but it's a lot less opportunity for correction. So it's important to get this one as accurate as you can. Again, some tapping fluid around the tip. And the best method I found for doing this is keeping your body nice and close and shuffling your body around. So I'm going to start here. Again, it's downwards force and clockwise rotation. Just shuffle around. And I can let go, walk around again, and shuffle around. Just going to stop here, and I'm going to check that it looks perpendicular. I think it's slightly high at this side, so I'm going to just gently force it down to this side. Okay, we'll go another quarter turn, and let's see how it's looking that way. Okay, it's pretty high at this side, so it needs to come down that way. As I say, there's not a lot of opportunity for correction on this, so once I've started, it's going to follow that path. It's pretty good that way. And pretty good that way. Okay, so same applies. A little crack back to break the chippings. One full rotation, crack it back. One full rotation, crack it back. Okay, and once we're sort of through to the depth of the component, I can just wind it off. And that should be our male M10 thread. Now the real test is to screw the two together and see how square it is. So rather than take everything out, I'm just going to wind this around this way. See, the thread's formed well, it's gripping nicely. Take it out, and I can check how square this is. That way, it's pretty good. And that way, it's miles off. So you can see that even with practice, it's quite difficult to do this by hand. It's a lot easier if you use the machines. That's talked about in a different video. But that's how we make threads manually. Thank you very much.